Today we are playing the Mounds in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. This course, 4.1 rated, used to be an old golf course. Before that, actually it was a landfill, but this property was just phenomenal to play. Before we get started though, as always, we have an envy to give away in this video. All you got to do is make sure you're subscribed, leave a comment, and like the video. But here we go, hole number one. This one has 2 pin positions. A lot of these holes do have 2 pin positions. Not every single one will have 2 baskets, but we're going to be playing the longs today. So if you guys saw when we played Tommy Shumpert, we got Jeff coming back, and then we also have a lefty playing with us today. This is Glenn. 2 buddies of mine that I play with quite a bit that are going to be joining us. So hole number one, you are literally up on a mound, so really cool shot. I always enjoy throwing a big hyzer out into this opening down here. If I'm going for the short basket, typically I like throwing a forehand. But the main thing, just getting as much distance as you can. So the Mounds here has actually had a ton of work put into it. I know quite a few of the people that work on this course. There are future plans to redesign this course and make it a whole different one as well. Just going to be a phenomenal one. Has your whites, you have the reds layout, so playing the shorts, you have blue for longs, pro layout. Just a ton of options here with just a ton of land to use. And then there's also, not going to be filmed, but there is another 9 in the woods on a hillside, probably some of the toughest woods in the Knoxville area, in my opinion, that you will play just because of the terrain mixed with how they utilize the woods. But hole number 2 here, this is going to be one of those ones that I believe just has 1 pin location. This has always been in the same spot every time I played this one. This used to actually kind of, almost you could say, be my home course. I used to play this one a lot before I would go into work when we used to live in this area. But this gap you either get out of it or you catch one of those branches, kind of like what Jeff did here. He caught one of the branches, and he did make it out to the left side, but you just want to throw something that's going to get as much distance as you can. And you have where all this brush is, it does open up a little bit and goes to the right. So the forehand's a really good play. Backhand turnovers, I mean, you have a ton of options. And this is actually an area that'll have a little bit of water behind the basket that'll kind of hold water, as you can tell. I believe it rained like the day before. But here we go, hole number 3. Just a nice uphill shot. So you're going to see Jeff trying to throw turnover shot, just kind of faded out on him. Plays just excellent for a lefty. Just got to make sure you get the distance. If he would have thrown that just a little bit higher because of that hillside, I think he would have really liked that. I'm going for the forehand. And on this shot, I don't know how many of you guys have this issue. When you try to flex it and you just throw it nose up, oh, that's the worst feeling ever. But where I threw into those woods, it's actually the shorts are over there. There's a really cool line through the woods. So if you're ever playing the red layout, that's where it is. You'll kind of see me here in a second. But Glenn going for birdie, just coming up short. So this is going to be the area. It's just a really cool wooded hole that they designed. So to save the par. Now, during the springtime, this can be very difficult just because of how much growth there is on that other hole. So it would have been a little bit harder for me. But hole number 4, this one may seem just completely just like this hole does not belong here because of how short it is. But this hole right here is a birdie or die. You can very easily just miss the gap and roll down that hill and take a 4, or you're just going to be up on the hill putting for your birdie. But it is definitely a tough one. So as you can tell, Glenn here and did not make it hit one of those trees, knocked him down. Jeff kind of faded out a little early. You can save par. You can find all sorts of lines. So Glenn to save his par and just missing it. But this is what I'm talking about. This happens all the time on this one. Terrible feeling, especially in a tournament, because it's such an easy hole. So this is my birdie. I've always opted to throw the forehand and kind of land on that hill. Just even if it does roll a little bit, there's so many trees that it will stop it majority of the time. So hole number 5, this is going to be a very scenic hole once you get to the top, just where this pond is at. So you can really throw what you're comfortable with. I always opt for that forehand, just kind of a little flex, just get a little bit more distance. The turnover, one major issue though, is just because it's uphill, you got to give it a little bit of height. I've seen so many people crash into that hill right there. Another perfect lefty hole. Now, the upshot, if you do not get enough distance, this can be a very difficult upshot just because of how close that basket is to water. So definitely got to be careful of that. Have a good distance management. This is for birdie and a heartbreak. So hole number 6, going to be playing alongside where we just were. There's a little creek right there that runs across. They do have, you can walk either to the left of that brush that's in this, or you can go just a little bit further. There's a small little bridge there. So I really enjoy this Anheuser play. I used to do a lot of lessons with a local pro here, and he took a buzz one time and just put it underneath the basket, and I've loved that line ever since. Just a ton of fun to throw. And today that one just ended up a little short in the brush.
There it goes.
Didn't get it out wide enough. But main thing, really just hit this gap, forehand, turnover shots. The thing that you will see a lot of times is this big tree that's right here coming into frame. You will catch those branches. I've seen hyzers actually go over all of the brush and creek and come crashing down on the backside of that to park this hole too. So you have a ton of options for it.
Let's see how it goes.
Now this creek, majority of the time in tournaments, will play casual. I've seen it play out of bounds too. So if you are competing, just be cautious of that. And I was just right on the edge of it. But hole number 7, the short tee pad is right underneath this evergreen, and here's going to be the long one. They did not have the short one in, so we're playing to the long. But like I said, we're playing longs anyways today. So on this one, the main thing is how it kind of, that mountain comes up right there. Just have to make sure that you give your disc enough height. I've seen so many people crash right into this hill that's, 60 feet right in front of them and just kind of kill everything or get a skip, and you lose a lot of distance. So that's going to be the major concern on this one. The creek, can come into play if you're throwing a roller and it just doesn't work out or something. That's a huge play I see a lot too, to really park this one, is that roller. But Jeff with a good upshot there. That brush pile during the springtime and summer, that can become very annoying very quickly if you do end up in that. So this tree right here kind of stopped, or actually I believe it was a hole right there that kind of stopped my shot. But
okay,
all of us going to be tapping in for par.
Have you ever
I believe it was I can't remember if that was par 4 or par 3, but here we go. Hole number 8. Another, I want to almost say iconic hole. I believe that it was a Halloween tournament a few years back where they put, or actually probably a lot more than a few years back now, where they put this, those steps up and made this elevated basket.
Looking good.
Anytime there's an elevated basket, you just got to make sure that you can have a decent putt to it. So all of us are going to have pretty good drives. Main thing you got to watch out for when you're throwing the hyzer is not crashing into that brush right there. You get into that brush, there's a good chance that you're going to be taking a 4 on this hole, 1 to get out, and then just taking your medicine trying to lay up. So all of us tapping in for a star frame. So really good star frame. They were happy with that. So hole number 9, going to be back on top of the mounds. This was actually where the highest point that you will be going down. Main thing here, just good distance control, making sure that you don't go too far and land into the water. So did not get a good ground play. The ground was carrying or holding a little bit of water today, so ended up splashing in one of the puddles, kind of killed the distance there. Glenn had a good shot, but Jeff here is actually going to be out driving all of us today and going to just be parking this hole. So he's showing us how it is done. So now you can have an idea of how close it is to the water. Again,
oh man, I putt with
so
my driver.
Jeff and I tapping in for our birdies. So hole number 10, this one you can actually see the short basket on it. It was to the right. We're going to be playing to the long today, which is way back here. So main thing that you want to do as a right-handed player typically is hitting this gap and just getting as much distance as you can. If you actually are a little bit further to the right, it is flatter and you can see the basket. Where I landed with that hyzer, you are on a hillside, you're going to be a little bit blind. Jeff just about carried the water there. And as a lefty, you do have this option as well, going just completely avoiding the water and having to hit that gap and just going around everything. Or if you want to throw a forehand, if you're a right-handed player, you can do that too, or turn over that way. Lots of options. So here we go. This is what I'm talking about. It's kind of hard to see where the basket is, but I mean, if you find a good aiming point on one of those trees, you'll typically do pretty well. So Glenn here laying up and just misjudged that one a little bit. Jeff here tapping in, I believe, par. Glenn to save his par, just coming up a little bit short. And actually my approach shot landed right here, so I'll take that all day long. Really happy with that one. So nice little birdie there. Hole number 11. This is a fun hole. They did a really good job with this one. The longs on this one are kind of out of play. Really difficult to get there just because it's overgrown. But typically we're just playing from the tee pad on this one. So a lot of options. I like that flex forehand. You have this backhand hyzer shot. I've seen fat wide forehand lines too instead of a flex. The lefty and just missed it, but you can go straight down that gap, something that'll flip up. So those two are really competing today with one another. They're having fun, making fun of each other on their shots anytime they threw a bad one. So Jeff just putting. Oh, jump putting, that's the word. Jeff was jump putting. That's a fun tongue twister. So moving on, bunch of pars for us. So hole 12, the blues makes this a really cool par 4 if you ever want to challenge yourself on this one. But this is just going to be a simple hyzer shot, just something that'll funnel down there.
Oof.
And you know, there are quite a few lines. I know it looks pretty thick with those trees, but you do have a lot of gaps there. I used to actually like throwing a forehand roller out of all things, just getting that disc as skinny as possible, and something understable, it will funnel down there really nicely. And kind of where Glenn landed, you can get an idea of how thick it is. Right behind him, though, is actually one of the main entrances for you. After this hole, you would continue playing into the woods, but it's kind of one of the spots for it where you would go right afterwards if you're wanting to play 27. There is another entrance back near hole number 5 as well. But Jeff taking the par there, or birdie there. So here we go, next one to the right. That sign actually talks about making sure that if your disc goes over that fence, do not get it. This is the Y12 area, and a lot of national or nuclear stuff goes on there as well, so making sure that you do not hop that fence. The security guards actually have a road. They will drive by and pick up discs. They're pretty good at calling people back. So if you do lose something, you know, you will get a call back. But this actually has a few different pin locations, a short, medium, and long. The long is closer to that wood line. Really like this medium one on the stump. Makes it a fun little putt. Just that elevated basket. So Jeff here doing that scuba, almost hitting me. All right, hole 14, going kind of back into the woods here. Not too thick, but you do have a few different lines here. Wanted to just hit this main gap, go something straight at it. There is a huge hyzer play to the right of everything and come crashing in. It is a pretty tough shot to do just because of how those branches are starting to grow out, and if it is spring or summertime, how thick it can get. So, but it is a fun shot to try if you guys ever want to try something new on this hole, if you do play this one regularly. So I ended up way short with my shot, but just a pretty easy up and down on this one. And none of us really threw a spectacular shot, so can't really do any highlights on this. Glenn here attempting that birdie putt, who's the closest one, and just coming up short. So seeing quite a few aces on this hole. Just if you can get something to go dead straight, it'll play really nicely for you. So hole 15, going to be playing all the way down this hill. Here's going to be the basket tucked up in between those two bushes there. Now, I know that there is talk to extend this one and put it up on top of the hill behind it. That would be a very, very challenging pin location for the par 4, but would make it a really good par 4 in my opinion. So that's one of the little leak for you if they are going to continue doing that in the future for that future design. But that right there is a common mistake if you turn something over and end up in this tree line. Is, you know, just because it's a par 4 won't make it impossible to get up and down, but can make it very annoying and take your birdie away in a heartbeat. So throwing that forehand to get just past that brush right there. Glenn had a great drive. If you can get something way down here to the flat part, that's ideal, because then you're looking at the basket. You can have a pretty easy approach shot. So Glenn here for birdie. Nailing it. Great putt. Jeff going to try to save his par. And just coming up short. Always a heartbreaker when you get those short putts right there. And then that was for a birdie as well. So hole 16, this one is one that I've almost aced. I've chained out on this one. I enjoy this high hyzer route. And then coming crashing in. And right here, you're going to see my disc
it did come
just
in
hit
near the basket.
a boost basically on that hillside and skip about 40 feet away. This is another great option with the lefty. You can throw a sidearm through this gap too, but going around everything. But if you do throw that hyzer, you have plenty of room on the right to work with, obviously. You just got to make sure that you don't cut it too close because of the hillside. You will get that boost. If you go a little bit higher and kind of skip off the top of the hill right before it flattens out, that's always a good play. So Glenn, this is where he landed, taking that birdie. So hole 17, this is probably one of my favorite holes out here. I really just enjoy the pin location on the long basket, needing a lot of distance and then kind of funneling in and then opening back up. So Glenn opted to throw a little bit of a nice flex shot there. We were joking about that disc all day. I believe it was like 145, and just working out really well for him with his distance. So I was throwing the hyzer shot, ended up going to just a little bit too far, what I would like. If you can look at the basket, that's going to be ideal. So Jeff coming up just a little short, throwing that approach shot, just making sure that you can hit this gap. I mean, that's really the main thing, is find a way to get in there. And both of them are peering the gap, just coming up a little bit short. That basket is a little bit further back. I'm throwing a tilt on a forehand up and over everything. That was really my only option. So if you do get caught behind all that stuff, that's really the only play you will have, is going up and over and just coming up short on that birdie putt. And all of us just did not want it. So hole 18, this is just such an easy shot, but this is probably my nemesis hole right here. This is one where you just need to throw straight down the middle, something that'll hyzer a little bit back. Kind of like what Jeff did. He turned that one over a little bit too much. But this is, tournament time, I'll always catch one of these branches. And today I did the same thing. I knew it as soon as it left my hand, just catching one of those. Now there are huge hyzers around those two trees that you can do. I've seen that done a lot with the bigger arm players, just throwing either backhand or sidearm. It is a really good play. It is fun to do. The sidearm, in my opinion, is a little bit harder just because there's more brush on that side and trees on that left side, but the backhand over everything is normally a really good option. And that right there was Glenn was putting to save par and missed it, and I believe these two were really close neck and neck. We'll see the scorecard here in a second. Yeah, Jeff got him by 1. I was 7 under. Just overall, great round. Check out the Mounds.